Howdy, boys and girls. It's Michelle. And we are continuing to talk about communication. And so in this case, we've been talking about communication styles and behavior. We covered how to work with different types of communication styles and behavior in the last session. In this session, we're going to talk about how you can use these different styles and why. So let's start with the why first. Why do you care about knowing these styles, and why do you care about using different styles? Well, not everybody pays attention to how they behave. Not everybody pays attention or cares how they communicate. And so you've got so much power if you can meander through life and work to use these to your advantage, to actually get work done in spite of other people's behavior, in spite of how they communicate. That's amazing. And if you can do it without them knowing it, all the better. Because then, maybe in some twisted way, it seems like manipulation. However, it's beneficial for you and for them because you're trying to get something out of it. Whether it's something from them or a piece of work that you need done at work for your profession, doesn't matter. But that's the why. That's why you'd actually want to make modifications and make changes and see what works. And so, I started off, or I talked a little bit in the last session about, becoming aggressive, right? So if you're not aggressive, you may want, why would you want to be aggressive? Well, in the last example from the last session, I explained how I had an individual that was aggressive and I was trying to be assertive and collaborative, and that wasn't working. So, the why would you want to be aggressive? Well, maybe you need to work with someone that's aggressive and they don't know how to behave any other way. So you might want to use the aggressive style so that you can get something from them or move work through your system at work. And so a way to do that would be to mirror their behavior. And this is tricky because you don't want it to escalate. You don't want it to result in shouting. But you can also use your posture, and you can stand taller and stronger. You can look more intensely. That's one of the ways to be more aggressive. You can raise your voice, your tone of voice, so you're not talking really softly. And so that, some people can interpret that as weakness. So those would be the hows of being more aggressive. Raising your voice, being more intense, leaning in, those are all examples of ways or how to be aggressive. And the why would be, maybe you're working with someone that's aggressive, and that's just the avenue that you must take in order to get what you need from that particular person. Now, let's talk about someone that is passive. Let's talk about using the passive style. Why would you want to be passive? Well, have you ever heard the term, I don't have a dog in this fight? That would be a good reason for being passive. There's nothing says that you have to speak up all the time. If you're used to speaking up and you're used to saying something, or you're used to having your voice heard, then it doesn't mean that you always have to do that. Sometimes it's appropriate to just sit back, observe, and not participate. That's okay. And ways to do that would be to do exactly that. Sit back, listen. Listen more than talking. That is a good example of being passive. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. And you can retreat actually step out of a conversation, especially if it's escalating. That might be another reason that you would want to be passive and just avoid a particular scenario or behavior. That would be another way to be passive. And then passive aggressive. Why would you want to be passive aggressive? Maybe there are other people that are acting that way, or maybe it's new, and maybe you're trying to observe other people's behavior, and you are trying to ascertain what you can contribute. So you could potentially participate in a meeting by acting in a passive fashion, and then circling back later after you've had a chance to observe how they behave and what they said, and you could change your mind. That sometimes that's misconstrued as passive aggressive behavior. It doesn't have to be. It depends on how you deliver it. So you might then change your mind and say something different, or communicate via email, or communicate differently in another meeting, something contrary to what you actually said or did in the first session. So that would be a way of being passive aggressive. And it's not necessarily bad. It's just learning different styles in order to get what you need and get what you want. And then as far as being assertive, that is providing constructive feedback, taking a step back. Maybe if the conversation's heated, you say, you know what, I think maybe it's appropriate for us to take a time out. I'm going to take a walk. Let's take a break. Let's come back to this tomorrow, or come back to this in another couple hours. That's entirely okay to do. Totally fine to do. And it's, it's warranted depending on what's taking place. So those are we started off with the why. Why would you want to change communication styles or behavior? The why is because you might be working with someone that you've not worked with before that's been aggressive or passive aggressive, and so you're trying to figure out how to get what you need from those individuals. You might be trying to get work done. Those are all good whys as to why you would change your approach and your behavior. And then the hows we've covered, how to act passively, passive aggressively, assertively, and aggressively. Those are all viable avenues in order to get to the why, which is getting something that you need that you otherwise are not getting because your typical style is not working for you. So with that, we'll see you in the next session, and you all have a wonderful day.